now, Tamale North MP Assin Suhuyini is accusing Assin Central MP Kennedy Agyapong of cowardice over his unavailability to appear before Parliament's Privileges Committee. A public hearing of the committee scheduled for today has been called off following what Mr. Suhuyini says is the inability of the committee to serve the MP with an invitation notice. Mr. Suhuyini says he has been informed by the committee that Mr. Agyapong has been traveling out of the country frequently and thus has not been available to receive the notice. Mr. Suhuyini says the Assin Central MP should be bold to appear and respond to the questions.
That we were going to have our day before the committee today. I had spoken with a couple of members of the committee and they were all upbeat about today's sitting. So it came to me as a surprise when the committee indicated that they have not been successful at inviting him yet due to the fact that he is out of the country. I find it unfortunate. I think that it amounts to an act of cowardice because we've all known about him now, and given the bravery he showed, one would have thought that he would be eager to make himself available for the committee to serve him. For this matter to be dealt with and decided by the committee and by extension the House. So I find it quite disappointing that his bravery only is exhibited and demonstrated in that comfort zone around Medina.
If he's out of the jurisdiction, he's out of jurisdiction. Why do you see that as a display of an act of cowardice?
First of all, he's elected to represent a constituency and to do business for the people of Ghana. And so I do not find any other business under the circumstance that will be more important outside the jurisdiction of this country than what is at stake. I mean, you're talking about the threat to the life of a citizen, for that matter, a journalist, as a member of parliament, claiming support from, the government and showing blatant, disregard to establish protocols and code of ethics that is required of us as journalists. One would have thought that he will want this matter resolved, even if he believes that he is right in doing what he is doing. And that should be more important to him than any other business outside the jurisdiction, especially around this time when many countries are on a lockdown.
Do you expect the committee to respond to this in a tough manner, probably subpoenaing him, probably, forcing him to appear before them as a member of Parliament?
Well, I cannot decide for the committee how they should proceed. I am so far very encouraged by, the attitude that I have seen being demonstrated by most of the members as far as this matter is concerned. Many of them have reached out on different occasions to understand what is at stake and to also, be well briefed on what is expected of them as members of the committee. And I think that is encouraging. Again, I have heard, some of them speak, in the media, and it gives me a lot of confidence that the committee will do a thorough job. And I think that it is in the interest of the committee for a thorough job to be done and for some, clear report to be presented and adopted by the House. Because you recall that he appeared before the committee in the last Parliament. The last Parliament was clear in their recommendations. The recommendation was for him to either be suspended or reprimanded. Unfortunately, the discussion on the report took a different turn, which later saw him rendering an apology that was so lame, and you can say he got off the hook so easily. And many people haven't been very pleased with the outcome of that particular case. And so many will be watching, members of the committee and by extension the whole House, to see how we will proceed on this matter. And I believe that it is in the interest of Parliament to protect its own integrity and also to ensure that other members, take a cue from whatever, decision will be taken to be of good behavior.
The House rises tomorrow. What does it mean for the work of the committee relative?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, the House rises tomorrow, but the 8th Parliament ends on January, 7th or 8th, 2025. So the business of Parliament continues. Committees do have the leave of the Speaker to meet even during recess, and once an application is made to the Speaker, I do not see why he should deny the leave for the the Privileges Committee to meet.
We'll be connecting to Agyapong shortly for more, but this is the second time Kennedy Agyapong has been dragged before the committee. The outspoken MP threatened the life of Love FM's journalist Erastus Asaredonko following the journalist's claims on the coverage of the military brutality that occurred at Ejura in the Ashanti region. The 31-member Privileges Committee, chaired by First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Owusu, received that complaint by the Tamale North MP Assin Suhuyini. It was actually referred to them by the Speaker of Parliament, and he describes it as unfortunate, Kennedy Agyapong's commentary against the journalist. Now, my colleague Opoku Agyapong, who is in Parliament, is joining me now with more. Agyapong, this is the second time the Assin North MP, the Assin Central MP, is escaping the meeting with the committee. What do other MPs feel about this?
Aisha, let me first bring you up to speed on some other details that I've gathered on this planned meeting for 5 p.m. this evening. I've just double-checked with the chairman of the Privileges Committee, who is also the First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Osei-Owusu, and he confirms to us that that meeting scheduled for 5 p.m. later this evening is actually coming on. It's been a little conflicting. Earlier, we got information from the office of the clerk of the committee indicating that one way or the other, the meeting had actually been called off, and we had the point that he had gotten the communication that because of Mr. Kennedy Agyapong's unavailability, in order for him to be served with the notice of this meeting, that meeting wasn't coming on. But just a few minutes ago, I double-checked with the chairman of the committee, Joseph Osei-Owusu, who had last week convened a meeting with other members of the committee to decide on the modalities of this particular meeting. And he confirms that at 5 p.m. later today, in the committee rooms 1 and 2, right here in Parliament House, that probe would actually be unfolding. We would be monitoring to bring you those details on that. But it's been a little conflicting what exactly may be contributing to the earlier plans to actually cancel this. You recall earlier, the minority side had boycotted a Zoom meeting that was actually held to decide on the modalities of this meeting, because then they insisted that that meeting had to be in person, and they didn't understand the basis for which the chairman decided to hold that meeting as an online and a non-in-person one. And after a bit of back and forth, the chairman went ahead with that said meeting last week, Tuesday, with MPs mainly on the majority side, meeting that the decision was reached that 5 p.m. later today, the committee would begin with Assin Suhuyini, the Tamale North MP, appearing to provide the necessary evidence to back his claim that the MP had breached his privileges, and then Mr. Agyapong would then be given the opportunity to then attend. For ABA Husseini, who is the Sagnerugu MP, who is also a member of the committee, they don't even recognize that that said meeting is coming on later today at 5 p.m. because they were not part of that meeting on Zoom that eventually took that decision. But as I said, we've gotten the confirmation from the chairman that the meeting will come on at 5 p.m. right here in Parliament House. Aisha.
All right, that's great to know. But Agyapong, what other business has the House been conducting?
So you recall that sometime last week, the Minister for Energy laid in Parliament request in order to allow for the Ghana National Corporation, their local subsidiary, other subsidiaries, to buy stakes in Aka Energy, their oil wells and their oil blocks right around the Cape 3 point. And separately, another search request was placed to allow for Exploco to buy another search block somewhere in the wells that's actually into AGM Petroleum. And we know that some civil society groups have actually kicked against this. They brought a petition to the Speaker of Parliament asking that brakes be pulled on that particular transaction. Additionally, there was a request by the Finance Minister for a loan to the tune of $1.65 billion so that then Exploco can buy in that particular well, as in the two different blocks. The Committee on Finance look at the request that the Energy Minister actually brought to the House, as well as the request that the Finance Minister brought to the House. There was a joint meeting of the Mines and Energy as well as the Finance Committees, and they are back with a report. They are making a number of recommendations to allow for this transaction to actually go ahead. This report from the Joint Committee will be laid on the floor of Parliament in the next few hours and then possibly approved. But just to go over brief details of it, the committee, after diligently of finance, agree by consensus, meaning both the majority and the minority side agrees that GNPC Exploco should acquire the 37% equity in the deep water tunnel Cape 3 Point operated by Eka Energy, and as well a 70% equity stake.
My colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo reporting from Parliament and giving us details of the business that's being conducted in that house. A number of those things, and he's also been updating us on the meeting of the Privileges Committee with the Assin Central MP, Kennedy Agyapong. And of course, he says that meeting will happen at 5 p.m. And it's something that we are monitoring. Joseph Opoku Gakpo himself says he will be bringing us updates on all of that in Parliament. So you need to stay tuned on the JoyNews channel.